Hey, how you doing today, folks? Today I'm going to continue my plot leak breakdown. And most of you are familiar with this. Right after Christmas, I received a message about this extended version of the plot leak. And after I read it, it sounded interesting enough to make a video about it. And as much backlash as the original leak got, this video currently has like 340,000 views, which is pretty damn crazy. It was actually well received, compared to the original one at least. But no matter how good or bad it sounds, we still have no idea how much of it will be true until we actually see the episodes play out for themselves. But I want to go through each episode like I have been doing and see how much of it could actually be true, based off of all the information we have gotten through filming reports, photos, and also characters' locations from the last episodes that they were in. And we might actually be able to find out what they are likely to do next, or at least possibly could do next. So let's begin. Season 7, Episode 5 was titled The Field of Fire. And it starts off with Jon, Davos, Gendry, and Jorah getting ready to leave Dragonstone and head north. But Theon stops Jon and asks him if he can join them on this mission. That way he can try to repay Jon for what he has done in the past. So Jon allows him to go. Based off the photos we have, we know for a fact that Jon, Davos, Gendry, and Jorah do leave Dragonstone together on a small boat. And this is going to take place during episode 4 or 5 because the director that's there shooting these scenes is Matt Shakman, who's going to be directing this episode. And based off other photos we have gotten, we do know that Jon and Theon will have an interaction on this same beach. And it's obvious from the photo that Jon is not happy with Theon, which is completely understandable given what Theon did at Winterfell. So I could see Theon wanting to do something heroic to make up for what he has done. So this really doesn't sound too crazy at all so far. But the only problem is, all the photos we have seen with Jon, Davos, Gendry, and Jorah leaving the beach, Theon Greyjoy is not in any of those. So it doesn't appear that Theon is going to be on the same boat with them heading north. But that doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't go, because Theon did arrive on his own boat when he got to Dragonstone. So he could follow them up in a separate boat. That's always possible, but I cannot confirm this in any way, so we're just going to have to wait and see if Theon does go with them. And if you saw my last spoiler video, you know that there's at least 1 or 2 mysterious characters that are with Jon Snow and the other guys north of the Wall, so Theon could possibly be one of those people. Okay, next it says Dany splits her armies into 2 groups, one Dothraki and one Unsullied. She then marches on King's Landing. Okay, this is actually possible. Based off the photos we have, we know for a fact that the Dothraki and Dany's dragons attack the Lannister and Tarly forces right after Jaime takes High Garden. And from the reports, we know that Matt Shakman will be directing these scenes. So it is going to take place in this episode or the one before it. And we have photos of Jaime, Randyll Tarly, and the Dothraki all in the same battlefield preparing for battle. And there was also footage of a dragon attack here too. But we only saw the flames and heard some screams of someone being burnt alive. Because we're probably not going to ever see any dragons, because they're usually always added in with CGI later. So there is a very good chance that after Dany defeats their forces here, she could head to King's Landing next. Especially if she defeats Jaime and his army, which is what all the reports have said so far. So it would be a good opportunity for her to strike King's Landing, considering she takes out Jaime Lannister's force. So that's what I would do. Plus we know Dany's coming for that throne anyway, so she could strike at any moment if she wanted to. But I'm assuming none of this is in order, because next it says Randyll Tarly and Jaime Lannister take Qyburn's weapon that is used to take down dragons. They then leave King's Landing to battle the Dothraki, with the Reach and Western forces. Okay, so we know it's not going to go down like this, because we know when Jaime fights the Dothraki, it's right after he leaves High Garden. It's not after he leaves King's Landing. Jaime's not going to be in King's Landing when he's getting ready for this battle. He's going to be further south than that. But this is definitely going to happen next season, but some of it is just a little bit out of order. But I can't say whether or not they're going to have a weapon made to take down dragons. But personally, I would highly recommend that they get one or make one somehow. because without it, they really don't stand a chance against 3 big dragons. Qyburn does have a lab, so I could see him coming up with something, especially if Cersei demanded that he make something to take down these dragons. But we haven't seen anyone with something like this in any of the photos, so I really don't know if this is going to happen. But I think it's possible. I don't see why Qyburn couldn't make something. I know they're definitely going to want to. But let's move on. Next it says, Brienne and Arya spar at Winterfell, with Ghost and Nymeria watching. Okay, we know Arya is heading home for a fact. She told Jaqen H'ghar that herself, and she's getting closer and closer with each passing episode. But I can only assume Brienne's going to go back there. But I'm pretty confident that's where she's going to go. We know she went to the Blackfish to try to get help for the Battle of the Bastards. She was denied. So she's more than likely going to go back to Sansa and tell her the bad news. But little does Brienne know that Jon already won that battle and has Winterfell back. But once Brienne finds out, I guarantee she's going to go back to protecting Sansa. Because we all know how loyal Brienne is. And early on during filming, we did get photos of Arya and Brienne on set during the same day. Arya was wearing her northern-type clothes, and Brienne was wearing the same undergarments that Jon Snow was wearing that same day on set. So there is a very good chance Arya and Brienne encounter one another next season. And given their personalities, I could see them doing something like this, because we both know they love to fight. So it's not crazy they would spar with each other. Especially if Arya is pissed off that Brienne kicked the Hound's ass. We all know how fond Arya was of Hound during the end, which is why she didn't put him out of his misery. She didn't want to kill him, at least not anymore. So Arya could show some resistance again when Brienne shows up, just like she did last time. You know, if she really hated the Hound, she would have left and went with Brienne. But I really hope we get a scene like this next season with these two characters. I would really love for them to team up. Could you imagine Arya and Brienne going out together, kicking ass? That'd be completely awesome. But let's move on. Next it says, Mira Reid tells Bran that she's going to leave Winterfell to go back home. Okay, this seems pretty obvious. Assuming Bran and Mira make it back south safely. Last time we saw them was at the weirwood tree right outside the wall, when Bran gave us one of the biggest revelations in the entire series. During one of his visions, he confirmed for us that Lyanna Stark is in fact Jon Snow's mother. Bran and Mira know that the Night's King is coming, and he might be hot on their trail. So they're going to need to get south of the wall ASAP. And Mira and her brother Jojen's mission was to get Bran to the Three-Eyed Raven. And now that she was able to do that, once she helps him get back home, her mission's going to be complete. So there will be no reason for her to be there anymore. Unless, of course, they write something new into her story. But other than that, she would probably go home. Unless she stuck around just out of curiosity. But personally, I hope we find out something about her father's whereabouts. Or hopefully, when she gets home, she has her father go to Winterfell to meet up with Bran. Since the show has already introduced us to Howland Reed, I think the chances of him showing back up are pretty damn good. But Mira was seen on set the same day as other characters who are already in Winterfell. Even though that doesn't mean she was filming with them, it does give me hope that they do make it to Winterfell and have some scenes with those same characters. So I'm pretty confident Bran and Mira are going to make it back to Winterfell, and I think most of you would agree with that. Okay, moving on. It says the Hound tells Sansa that Littlefinger betrayed her father. So Sansa comes up with a plan to take revenge against Littlefinger. So she agrees to marry him, but it makes Arya mad. So Arya leaves, and the scene cuts away before Sansa can tell Arya about her plan. Alright, I may end up being wrong about this, and if I am, I will have no problem admitting that if I do, but I think this part sounds like bullshit to me. I'm not going to say it's impossible, I would never really say that, but it just doesn't feel right to me. This really doesn't feel like Littlefinger's style. I think he's way more calculated than having to force her to marry him, but that's just my opinion. But one thing I could see is the Hound telling Sansa what happened to her father that day. The Hound was present in the throne room the day Littlefinger put the blade to Ned's throat, which led to his imprisonment and ultimate death. We know that the Hound is very fond of Sansa and Arya. Sansa is his little bird, who we know he is willing to protect. And now that the Hound is on this Avengers tour, killing any piece of shit he comes in contact with, I could see him wanting to weed out Littlefinger, if given the chance. But I don't know if it's going to go down like this. I'm not really sure if the Hound's going to even be in Winterfell next season at all. There have been no photos or reports of him being there, nor has he been seen with any of the characters while they are there. But there's always a chance of that surprise, which I would like to get. But I know someone who will be in Winterfell soon, and who will not be putting up with any of Littlefinger's bullshit. And that is Brienne of Tarth, one of the greatest fighters in all of Westeros. Brienne does not like Littlefinger at all. Remember when Sansa met Littlefinger in Molestown? Remember when Sansa kept trying to remind him of what Ramsay did to her? And she kept asking him if he knew how she was treated, but Littlefinger wouldn't respond? Brienne had her hand on the handle of her sword, and she demanded Littlefinger to speak. She said, "Lady Sansa asked you a question." She dared Littlefinger not to speak. She was ready to execute him right there if Sansa had only given her the word. So when Brienne and Podrick make it back to Winterfell to protect Sansa, I think if Brienne even gets a hint of Littlefinger trying to betray her again, she will cut his ass down. But I think there are a lot of ways he can die next season. Even like the original leak said, where it says that Arya will execute him, I could see that going down. Littlefinger isn't on her list, but if she finds out what he did to her father, he will quickly be added to the list and quickly removed from the list without hesitation. And I also think that Sansa can reveal that Littlefinger was the one who killed her Aunt Lysa. All of the backstabbing that Littlefinger has done over the years is going to come back at him and be his downfall, guaranteed. It's going to eventually catch up to him. You can't outrun that forever. But I just don't see him forcing her to marry him. But believe me when I say this, as soon as Jon Snow leaves for Dragonstone, Littlefinger's scheming will be again at full force. But let's just hope Sansa has learned from her mistakes and is able to counter any move that he makes. Okay, next it says Sam finds out that Jon's real name is Aegon. He then leaves Old Town before Euron Greyjoy can sack the place. I think we can all agree this sounds like complete horseshit. Everyone knows that Rhaegar Targaryen already had a son named Aegon, so the chances of him naming another son the same thing is very unlikely and sounds a bit ridiculous. So let's just not waste any of our time and move on from this part. Okay, the Brotherhood without banners leave Winterfell and head towards the Wall, and they are with Tormund and Brienne. Thoros has a vision of a battle in the snow, taking place beyond the Wall. Okay, we have yet to receive any proof that the Brotherhood ever goes to Winterfell. So I can only speculate whether this is going to happen or not. But what we do know is that members of the Brotherhood do go on a mission with Jon and a few other characters later in the season. And one of those characters is Tormund Giantsbane. And since Tormund did not go to Dragonstone with Jon, then I think there is that chance that Tormund could meet up with the Brotherhood before he meets up with Jon. Then that could be how they all end up meeting up together for this mission. And we also have a photo of Tormund and the Hound together. And we know that the Hound was last seen with the Brotherhood, and is more than likely still traveling with them for the entire season, considering they are together for a scene that's taking place during episode 6 next season. But I think Tormund is actually going to meet up with them somewhere else. Tormund and the Brotherhood are probably going to meet up at the Wall. I think before Jon leaves Dragonstone, he's probably going to tell Tormund about his plan to go beyond the Wall, so I'm sure Tormund's going to meet him there. But this is just a guess. Now, I can't say whether Brienne is going to go. We haven't received really any information on Brienne during the off-season. The only photo I have seen during the off-season was at the beginning stages of filming. And that's the same photo you saw earlier when she was on set with all the other characters in the North. But there is a chance that Brienne could be one of those mysterious characters that has gone with them beyond the Wall. She's a complete badass, and definitely someone I would want to take, given that she can probably beat all of these other characters up in a fight. So I wouldn't be mad if the script actually put this in there and sent her. But that would just mean that Sansa has even less protection with her while she is with Littlefinger at Winterfell. So that could end up being a double-edged sword. But let's move on. It says the first battle of the Queens begin. The Reach forces are defeating the Unsullied due to Randyll Tarly's commanding archers, who have the sun at their back. The Dothraki forces collide with Lannister forces nearby. Bronn kills 2 Dothraki. Jaime kills 1. Jaime appears to be winning the battle until Drogon and Rhaegal appear. Rhaegal kills Randyll and Dickon Tarly with Dragonfire. Qyburn's weapon hurts Rhaegal, but then Drogon destroys the weapon. Drogon nearly kills Jaime, but Bronn saves him just in time. Can I just say that this sounds fucking awesome? Lannister and Tarly versus Dothraki and Unsullied plus dragons in the open field. I am all in for this scene. And the good thing is, we already know that most of this is going to happen. There have been dozens of reports and dozens of photos that have came out as they have been filming this battle scene. We know there are over 500 extras and 100 horses being trained for this battle, which is pretty much more than what they used at the Battle of the Bastards. I think this scene is going to be incredible. We have seen photos of the Lannister and Tarly army side by side, and we have also seen the Dothraki army marching in. And there was also photos and videos of them setting up a flamethrower to use as dragonfire. And in the video, you can hear a man screaming, "Khaleesi!" So there are going to be some serious casualties of war here. And if Jaime is almost killed by a dragon after he loses the majority of his forces, he's going to reconsider who he is fighting for, knowing this is a war he cannot win, fighting for a woman he may no longer even love. I think this battle scene is going to be a major turning point for who has the power in Westeros, and we all know who is going to come up out on top. Now, I cannot wait to see this battle scene. I have no idea if Qyburn has created any kind of weapon to use against the dragons, but it would be wise, and it would be cool as hell if he did. That would just add an extra layer to this battle, knowing that the dragons can be hurt too. So I actually hope we get to see something like this, if we don't see a horn. I think there needs to be some kind of an equalizer for these dragons, or else we're never going to have to worry about Daenerys going into battle, which could get boring if we know she's never going to lose. Think about it. But there's one last part to this episode that says Jaime arrives back in King's Landing after the battle, and he tells Cersei she should surrender, but Cersei refuses and sits on the Iron Throne. Again, there is no way to confirm this, but like I just said, after Daenerys defeats the Lannister and Tarly forces, and if she does nearly kill Jaime with one of her dragons, he is going to need to reconsider what the hell he is doing. They are running out of people to align themselves with, and eventually they will have nowhere to run. So I do think Jaime will come up with an exit strategy before Cersei does. Cersei is never going to surrender, nor will she ever bend the knee. You're going to have to kill her to get her off that Iron Throne. And with that, I'm going to end this here. So thank you guys for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye.